Dead.
Islam Morris. Today's class. Today's class was entitled "You Can't Stop the Prophet." You can't stop the prophet. They can try and try, but it's they're gonna have problems with that. Now, we're just gonna read from one of the papers, Moorish Guide, National Edition. Put out January 8th, 2012 by the Moorish Science Temple, or the Great Seal Moorish Science Temple, with Grand Chief Nature. And they had an article in here about Oscar the Priest. So we just want to read some of that article and then go into the divine warning of the prophet, so we can get a perspective as to where we're supposed to be in our frame of mind as far as the prophet's concerned, and us taking the position of enforcing what Noble Jawali ordered us to enforce. So the priest, page 4. The priest asks all to study the Constitution, seeks to have citizens better informed. Sorry, Mari, touch that a little bit more. The thing. The priest was a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America under the leadership of the Prophet Noble Jawali in 1928. And with the assistance of the 3,000 Moorish Americans of Chicago, he was able to be elected the first Asiatic congressman. The priest held his office at Unity Hall, 3140 Indiana Avenue, which was the home office of the Moorish Science Temple of America. So there was a strong relationship between Noble Jawali and Oscar the Priest. In fact, the priest also spoke at the Moorish American First Annual Convention held at Unity Hall. There is no doubt that these two constitutionalists worked together to restore the free national standards of law and to make sure every citizen answered up to the constitutional standards of law by names and principles. Prophet Noble Jawali strongly emphasized in the divine warning for the nations, for all true American citizens, to help him in his mission to get his people back into the constitutional fold of government. The priest helped to further that mission in a political venue directly to those who claim to know law. Those representatives of our government had a public oath reflecting their fiduciary duty, in which they were sworn in to exercise in good faith according to their understanding. And since the Constitution has been misplaced from the educational teachings of government and the public school system, the Constitution has been the secondary interest to the citizens in general. To be a citizen of this free national republic of the United States of America, you must first claim your descent name and have a fundamental knowledge of the laws of this country, i.e. the Constitution, and take an oath of allegiance to support the Constitution of the country and to state where you domicile, If these constitutional requirements are not met by the citizens, we become classified as artificial citizens, possessing privileged citizenship, regulated by the unconstitutional 14th Amendment, which are the modern day black codes that were founded to regulate the slaves trade. The Constitution reflects the agreement between the natural citizens of the land and their representatives and guarantees a republic form of government. To ignore this is to agree to enslavement. Congressman is a part of legislative branch of government that is empowered to make law according to the checks and balances described in Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, which also consists of a House of Representatives and a Senate. Not only does this department make law, but they also have the obligation to represent the natural people of the land that constitutes the state body politic. The priest, being the first Asiatic congressman, was a great advantage to the so-called black community of Chicago, because the duty of the congressman is to express the will of the people. One of the important elements the priest understood through his teachings from Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America was that black was not the proper name of our people. And as long as we keep clinging to the names, principles that allude to slavery, we would be outside of the constitutional fold of government. In the priest's reasons why he is requested to support the education of the Constitution is he quoted the several states in Union based their suffrage on the reading and interpretations of the Constitution. The word suffrage means right to vote or to process in which to vote. This is key to understanding a republic form of government. Voting is a right protected by the Constitution, exercised by the national citizens of the state. Noble Drew Ali taught that by claiming a free national name, we can cast a ballot at the polls under the state's constitution and not as a granted privilege, which it has been for many generations. Natural persons, i.e. free national citizens, have constitutional protected rights, and Negroes, blacks, whites, etc., colored names have privileges. You can write your congressman to address these issues and don't elect them if they're not willing to do so. And this is Oscar the Priest. I am very anxious that those of my racial group should be better acquainted with the Constitution and thereby more clearly understand their rights. There are several states of the Union that base their suffrage upon the ability to read and interpret the Constitution. Wishing to carry on a campaign of education of the Constitution, I am writing to ask your cooperation in getting this matter before churches, schools, and societies of every description with which you are associated. If you can consistently do so, will you have the people read and discuss the Constitution and the amendments thereto section by section until they become thoroughly acquainted with it. As loyal American citizens, we owe allegiance to the laws of our country and should know the contents of this document in order that we may protect our rights accordingly. When one understands the Constitution, he or she will be in a position to ask his or her congressional candidate for support of every section and every amendment to the Constitution. Those candidates who are not willing to do so should not be elected to office. Those who are willing to do so should be earnestly supported and elected. So with Oscar the Priest, so it's common knowledge that Oscar the Priest is the first black congressman. Right? Now, when Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that if we can think, we would save ourselves. If we would use our own mental faculties instead of relying on inspiration from exterior forces, we would be able to save ourselves. So for a so-called black congressman to come out and demand that the people learn and study and support the Constitution proves that he wasn't a black man. Because black men don't speak about constitutional whatever. They speak about civil rights, getting permission from slave master before you could do something, right? That's why in the article, because Morris wrote it, listed him as an Asiatic. First Asiatic congressman, right? The first Asiatic, and this is documented that you can go research. The first Asiatic congressman of Chicago held his office at Unity Hall, 3140 Indiana Avenue, right? Unity Hall, 3140 Indiana Avenue was the home office of Noble Drew Ali's temple in Chicago, right? So you have this congressman that everybody knows is the first congressman with melanin in Chicago, right? Everybody knows that he's the first one of Chicago. But everybody diverts their attention away from the fact that he was Asiatic, right? Everybody diverts the fact away because his office was at 3140 Indiana Avenue, which when you research that or go to that building says Moorish Science Temple on it. But this is where this congressman's office was. And remember, he was elected to be congressman. So it's not like he was half-stepping with this title. He was actually in the political order of the federal government, representing so-called people who look Negro black colored or whatever the case is, or identify themselves as Negro black colored. So when he makes a plea that, you know, he's wishing to carry on the campaign of education on the Constitution, and he's writing to ask the cooperation to get this matter before churches, schools, societies, and everybody else who these so-called Negro black colored people say that they belong to. In 1928, they would have been free without having Noble Drew Ali say anything, because the congressman was expressing the same thing that Noble Drew Ali expressed to the Moors when they were in their conscious state, that they should enforce the Constitution. They should study it. Schools should be doing, you know, classes section by section dealing with the Constitution. But because that wasn't done, right, we look at ourselves in this situation that we're in with, you know, lack of support. How come people aren't supporting? How come people, because they were not taught, right, by the individuals who were in these positions, right, but didn't have any type of connection to what Noble Drew Ali taught, right? Their whole perspective was to get the people to be lost, fooled, whatever, into the whole civil rights argument. So when we go to divine plea, right? Noble Drew Ali has a writing called The Prophet's Plea to the Nation, right? The Prophet's Plea to the Nation is to the nation, not to the Moorish Science Temple members.
Is that again? For that, the plea?
The Prophet's Plea, no, this was Moorish literature.
Okay.
Yeah, right? So this is March 1st, 1929. So this is a few months again before Noble Drew Ali got assassinated. Our divine and national movement stands for the specific grand principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, right? So like we're talking about with all the other groups earlier in the meeting, that when you have Nation of Islam say bow tie, right? That's their principles. If you don't want to get down with it, then get the hell out. We don't need you here, right? Rastafarians, some of them have their hair up in turbans or whatever like that. If you don't want to follow the protocol, don't worry. You don't have to, but you can't be up in here if you don't have your turban on. That's just standard. That's just principle. That's just a law of their so-called society. So in our society, our divine and national movement stands for the specific grand principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So whoever doesn't want to deal with that, no problem, but you can't get benefits, right? Again, if we look at Oscar the Priest, he was a congressman in the highest level of government that was also a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And his membership or his involvement in the temple wasn't like how we see people today's involvement in the temple. He took the stuff that he learned in the temple and he applied it to where he was doing his activity, which was in the federal public forum. And he stood by that. But then, you know, when you research Oscar the Priest, you'll find out about the lack of support that he got because of him taking this position, which was destroying, you know, the foundation that that the colonizers had set up, because he's going around telling all these groups or whatever that they need to study the Constitution, right? But then you have people on the backside that are pushing, well, you don't need to study the Constitution because we have civil rights over here. And once you get down with the civil rights, you know, just like no different than with the Indians. Well, you know, if we get you drunk, right? We get you drunk, then we could sign any treaty and you'll sign it. And then we'll take that treaty that you signed when you were drunk and we'll go around the world pretending like, yeah, we signed a legitimate contract, so now we can take the land. Well, no, that's the adhesion contract. Because that guy wasn't in his right mind when he signed that. All those chiefs, they weren't in their right mind. They didn't have any connection to Moorish or Aboriginal and Indigenous. Their mentality is, slave master gave me this card right here that says I'm a whatever tribe I belong to, which, like us, takes us out of the constitutional fold of government, right? The majority of people who call themselves Indian never even read the Constitution to even know what it is, to even know how they're tied to it. But if the European could say, here's a card and I'll give you taxes off, or here's a card and I'll let you whatever, they'll jump on that, right? So our divine and national principles, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and I, the prophet, am applying to all loyal, faithful Moors, members, and American citizens to help me in my great uplifting acts of uplifting fallen humanity among the Asiatic nation, right? So I, the prophet, am applying to all loyal, faithful Moors, right? So loyal, faithful Moors. The best example of a loyal, faithful Moor. When we went to Chicago, we talked about this story before, and the brother's name's slipping me. But when we went to Chicago to bring this information back here, right? We were driving around Chicago with a couple of the Moors, and we got to, we're making a left turn. So we made a left turn, there was a bus there, and then there was a brother with a walker, right? Like the cripple walker, right? So he's there with the walker, you know, we're driving by, Moore stopped, you know, honked him. Yeah, you know, jump in, you know, throw the walker in the back, you know, we're going to the temple, right? The walker guy said, nah, don't worry, I'm gonna get to the temple. Yeah, well, you know, we're going there, so you could just, nah. Right? I got my bus ticket or whatever, I'm gonna go on the bus, don't worry, I'm not missing my meeting. The guy did his walker thing, went on the bus, right? So we were like, okay, whatever. We took off, right? Walker guy made to the temple before everybody else was at the temple. The guy with the walker on the bus. And then guys with cars and, you know, whatever mode of conveyance that they have to get there, they can't even get there on time. And this guy with a walker is getting to the temple on time. That guy made me get down with this. Because that made me realize how serious this is. If this guy is a walker, and he's not going to accept a free ride, he's going to willingly go on the bus and take the bus, however long the bus trip is, to get to the temple, then he's obviously loyal to what this is. And nothing's going to stop him from making his meetings. Nothing's going to deter him or sway him from his birthright. Right? I haven't experienced more loyalty to the Moorish movement than that individual since I've been in this. Like, there's nobody that compares to him, to me personally, because guy had a walker, right? And he wasn't moving at, you know what I mean, like with any pace, right? He literally was using the walker to the best of its ability of how it's supposed to be used. He was using it. And he made it to the meeting before all these other people who, oh yeah, I'll be there, don't worry, or whatever, right? People strolling in late, right? So when Noble Drew Ali said that he's applying to all Moors, faithful Moors, members, American citizens, these are specific people that he's speaking about. He's not just talking about anybody. He's being very specific with who he goes after because, again, right? For I have suffered much and severely in the past through misunderstanding of what the movement was dedicated to. Right? Same thing that we're going with today. People interpreting this from some warped perspective because they don't want to take the time to recognize what it is. Everybody's coming in here because they got some issue, some problem, tickets, taxes, whatever like that. They get their help and then they're out the door until they get their ass kicked again, and then they come back here 6 months later talking about, oh yeah, I need a paper so I can whatever, right? Not that we can't provide that service, but if you're not loyal and faithful to these principles that were laid down, right? The damage is only going to come to yourself.
It's more like it's like karma coming back to you. What you would say?
Right.
Much.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Getting back what you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It is the great God Allah alone that guides the destiny of this divine and Moorish movement. Right. It's only the great God that guides. Noble Drew Ali doesn't even guide this. And this is his words. So for people to say that, you know, the Moorish movement is because, you know, Kudro or Prophet Noble Drew Ali or Taj or Raz or whoever is a fiction. Because only Allah guides this. So any way that you see this going is because the higher force has a hand in it going this way. And it's going that way for a specific reason. It's going that way because it has to go that way. If it goes any other way, then it's against what Allah set up.
And it's not about you. It's about your own birthright.
Right? I know all true American citizens are identified by national descent names to answer and apply to the free national constitution of this free national republic of the United States of America. That's why I am calling on all true national citizens to help me morally and financially in my great work I am doing to help this national government. For without a free national name, with a flag of your forefathers, there is not a national divine title of the government in which we live. This is from your true and divine prophet unto all American and foreign sympathizers. So he's not just making a plea to the nations of the Americas. He's speaking to foreign jurisdictions, to the Americas, who understand these principles called love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Just pick one, and I guarantee you, talk to anybody out there, they'll tell you that they back one of the principles that we have. Any nation out there, you just go ask them about our 5 principles, and they'll pick one and say, yeah, our nation backs that one right there. And if they're able to choose one of the 5 principles and back that, then Moors can't be talking about, you know, well, how come the Moors don't have this yet? And how come the Moors don't have that yet? It's because the Moors aren't doing it. Because we're too busy waiting for somebody else to do something for us, instead of us doing it for ourselves.
Same thing you said.
Right? Which is what the purpose of this is. To get us to take our place amongst the affairs of men so that we can start doing what it is that the Moors used to do. From ancient times. That everybody's sitting there waiting for the Moors to do what they're supposed to do. And the Moors want to be black people, Negro people, colored people, Africans, African American. You know, don't know who Noble Drew Ali is. Don't know what the Moorish nation is. Thinking that, you know, Moors say Islam, that we're talking about religion, when you're completely blinded if you think that this is some religious thing, right? So when Noble Drew Ali made certain statements and talked about certain things, right? He was not only speaking to people who have turbans and fezzes on and hope that they listen. he was also addressing all the nations of the world, who all of them have been put in slavery. They've been allies with corporate governments, thinking that they're de jure governments. They've been accepting, fiat as money when that's not money. And then they have real money in their government, wherever in the world, backing the currency that they're using, but then they're gonna accept unbacked currency from somebody else that they know currency is unbacked, because it's knowledge around the world that the so-called United States government been bankrupt since 1933. So that means the land, government, resources, whatever, automatically goes back to the heirs of the land, the Aboriginal indigenous people. That's what happened in Ukraine. That's what happened in Cuba under Batista. That's what happened in Venezuela with Hugo Chavez. That's what happened in Hitler with Germany. It's the same pattern that we've been so dumbed down that we even see the activity that we're supposed to be doing or to do happening with other nations, and we don't implement it because we think that, oh yeah, that's not our brothers and sisters because they don't look like us, or they have a different religion than us, or they're in a different landmass than us, so what they do doesn't apply, right? Prophet Juali speaks to the nations, need strong men and women. If you have race pride and love your nation, join the Moorish Science Temple of America and become part of this divine movement. Then you will have power to redeem your nation, because you will know who you are and who your forefathers were. Because where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. Come, good people, because I, the prophet, sent to redeem this nation from mental slavery, which you now have, need every one of you who think your condition can be better. This is a field open to strong men and women to uplift the nation and take your place in the affairs of men. If the European and other nations are helping me, why not you? It is your problem. The Negro problem is being solved only as it can, and that is by the Moorish National Divine Movement. If you have a nation, you must have a free national name in order to be recognized by the nation as an American citizen. This is what is meant when it is said, seek ye the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto you. So it's a repetitive theme that the Moors have to have a free national name. You have to have a flag. You have to recognize what these principles are. You have to recognize who your prophet is, who your God is, before you even attempt to go out there and exercise anything called rights. Right? If you're not grounded in self, you're gonna go out there and you're gonna get injured. Right? And people who have come into this from the perspective of learning the foundation don't have problems. People who come into this with the foundation of knowing that what Noble Drew taught wasn't some religion that we're trying to convert from what we were into this, because this is the new thing now to be part of, right? And then once we get this, then maybe something else is going to come later that's going to be higher than this. Like, more science is where it's at. Like, this is the end of the road. There's nothing after you get to here. If you get to here and don't want to be done with this, you're only regressing. If you get to this level and realize that you don't want nothing to do with this because, I don't know, things are just funny with this, you're regressing. Automatically. Because what Noble Drew brought was nationality and birthrights. And to reinstill these principles and this culture into us is what's going to get us back into the mind of our ancient foremothers and forefathers, so then we can do the things like our ancient foremothers and forefathers did. So it's like we say that you know, if you don't have the mindset of your ancient foremothers and forefathers, don't talk about you're going to build a pyramid or anything like that. Don't talk about you're going to understand, even comprehend how a pyramid was built if you don't go back to the state of mind of the people who built that. Don't think that you're going to understand why is there Stonehenge if you don't go back to the state of mind of the people who built Stonehenge. You're not going to understand why is there Moors on all European family crests if you don't go back to that state of mind to understand what were those people thinking during that time. That they actually said, hey, you know what? We're going to put our crest or our emblem or our logo or whatever on every single European name, family crest that there is. Right? That people are going to, you know, not connect to themselves. Because it's like when we talk to Moors in the UK, and they, well, how do we deal with this here? What you guys talk about is American law. Like, what are you talking about? Right? You ever went to look at the crest in Europe? No. Maybe you should go do that before you even do anything else. Go look at all those crests and just see all those Moors heads on those crests and recognize that they're being identified as Moors heads, right, in Europe. And then ask yourself the question again, why is it just American? How come this can't apply to us over here? If you have no knowledge of who your ancient foremothers and forefathers were, right, then you're not going to know where you're going, right? People are, it's like people are going to be, you know, not that it's wrong, but you distort your learning by saying, oh, there's this guy out there named Taj Tariq Bey. He teaches about Moorish stuff and all that stuff. So, you know, I'm in Toronto, but I'm gonna go listen to him. They listen to him and stuff's not clicking and not making sense, not adding up. And, you know, people don't get that that frequency isn't a Toronto frequency. Why you listen to somebody from Toronto speaking about Moorish science to understand what Moorish science is about since you live in Toronto? You're gonna go listen to Alim or whoever out there when there's individuals here who are doing the exact same thing that you're trying to reach to, but you're not looking at the people who are here doing it. They're gonna look at somebody who's somewhere else, right? Everybody wants to be the best ball player, but they're looking at American players to, as the justification or the mark, right, when they're here, right? No, you sell yourself out. Because if you don't honor your own, how do you expect somebody else to honor yourself if you don't honor your own? If you don't recognize your own? This is why Noble Drew Ali wasn't specific talking about, you know, divine plea to the Moorish Science Temple, divine plea to the Moorish Americans, right? Prophet Drew Ali speaks to the Moorish Science Temple. We need strong men and women, right? His perspective was broad when he dealt with this. He didn't deal with this on this little pocket idea. He dealt with this to wake up everybody across the world to recognize something, to recognize that something's missing, which is why the world is in the turmoil that it's in right now. It's not in the turmoil because, oh yeah, the European or whatever. It's really because of us. It's really because of dark-skinned people. It has nothing to do with the European why the world's in turmoil right now. He has very little bit to do with the turmoil, because if you go ask all them, they'll tell you that, yeah, well, you know, the Moors brought us out of the Dark Ages. So if the Moors brought these people out of the Dark Ages, then the Moors were the ones that taught them everything that they know. All that stuff, lynching and burning people at the stake and all that stuff, that's not stuff that they just picked up. Right? That's things that they were learned. That's things that they were taught. We might not have been burning people. We might not have been lynching people, but something was getting lynched for them to get this idea that, hey, you know, this is a good way to deal with this. Right? Those things had to have an effect somewhere else for them to pick that up and say, yeah, let's implement that. And Noble Drew Ali came to try to change that whole mind frame. Right? Because remember that when we study the Constitution, you're gonna backtrack into Articles of Confederation, Articles of Association, Treaty of Peace and Friendship, all these things that predated the Constitution, right? And all those things that predated the Constitution were put there to end this back and forth, whatever that was going on between Moors and Europeans for generations. Then we get to the Constitution, and then there's slavery. And all of a sudden, all the dark-skinned people who are in power, they're not in power no more, right? People are saying they brought them from here, brought them from all over the place when they're already here. Europeans now are recognized or acknowledged as being the white people, right? Which means now that they have the power to do everything that the Moors were doing, because the real status of white people belongs to us.
Free white person.
And they adopted everything. They adopted the Moorish Empire. When they say the sun never sets on the British Empire. Right? Yeah, because they adopted the Moorish Empire that the sun never sets on. And they just call it British now. And they have a queen and everybody backs that. Oh yeah, you know, we recognize her as a queen and we recognize that guy as a king and we recognize whoever as whatever. But nobody's not talking about the bloodline. Nobody's not talking about the fact that it's Moorish birthright that these people are picking up that Moors don't want, and they're using it all over the world, taking advantage of people, taking over people's government, kicking people out of their own land, out of their own homes and all that stuff, based on the fact that they don't want to adhere to the principles that were laid down. And once you go away from the principles, once you dishonor your foremothers and forefathers, then your life is cut short on the earth plane, and you don't have anybody to blame but yourself. Which is where we're at. But we're sitting there pointing at people that they're the ones that, they're the ones or whatever, when it's us. Not recognizing that if you don't have a free national name, if you don't have a flag, if you don't have these things that make you recognizable to the other people of the world who have these things, then here we are. Right? In this state that, you know, people are so dumbed down right now that you can't even get people to say, I'm more. Forget have a nationality card and come to the temple and whatever. Just to get them to say that they're more is an impossible feat. They'll call themselves everything else in the book. Israelite, NOI, whatever, Nubian, right? They'll call themselves everything. They'll say that they come from other planets, other galaxies or whatever before they say that they're more. When in order for you to come from somewhere out there, you got to be a more. How we know that? Superman. Superman's name is not Clark Kent.
House of Hell.
Superman's name is Kal-El. And Superman's dad's name is El. And everybody on their planet's name is El. That's a Moorish name. Right? And he renounces U.S. citizenship. In the Superman cartoon, he renounces U.S. citizenship, that he doesn't want to be a United States citizen because he doesn't like what the U.S. stands for. Right? And Clark Kent is a pseudo name.
It's a straw name.
Clark Kent is the straw man. And Kal-El is the Moor that has the superpowers to do whatever it is that he has to do in the Matrix.
Right? So, broke it down right there.
If, right?
He corrected his status when he went to the Palace of the Crystals.
Right, exactly.
That's when he found out that, hey, I'm Superman.
I'm Superman.
Corrected
I'm not
his
Clark
status.
Kent.
I'm not Clark Kent.
Are you talking about the movie?
Yeah.
Both of them.
All of it.
I've never seen the movie. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
All of them.
All of them.
Whether it's movie, cartoon, comic book,
Yeah.
comic strip,
Mm-hmm.
newspaper, comic strip,
Mhm.
whatever.
So
It's common knowledge that he's an elf
Clark Kent when he's working, Kal-El, Superman when he's saving the world. In his natural state.
in his natural state. Right?
Never
Um,
thought like that.
right? Spider-Man with Venom.
Oh, yeah.
Venom's more powerful than Spider-Man.
All day.
The melanated.
But Venom is the melanin Spider-Man. They talk about him, he's black, make him black suit or whatever, you know what I mean? Teeth and all that stuff, tongue hanging out, right? Make him look all evil. When he's more powerful than the European guy. Peter Parker. You know what I mean? Peter Parker ain't nobody. Right? So when we look at the horizon and we see these little things being played out, and we don't acknowledge them, we look at them as, oh, nah, whatever. We cast ourselves out of being in the flow of where things are supposed to be or where we're supposed to be. Just like Brother Shifter just went away, right? Went to Cuba, right? They're not going to show you on TV people who look like us in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
They're there though. In abundance, all over the place.
Predominantly.
Mm-hmm.
Cubans are all fucking.
Right? Like, they're there. Dark-skinned people.
Darkness.
That as soon as you walk off the plane, you go into a certain community, unless you don't speak Spanish, right? They don't know whether you're down with them or whether you came from somewhere else, because that's how naturally we blend. And that goes from the most southern part of the Americas to the most northern part. Right? Same thing if we go to Philippines and all these places.
Venezuela.
Right? You're not seeing fair-skinned people. They show you that on TV because if they let it out that dark-skinned people really are the majority, it's going to be a problem. Especially to the people in North America who have this block in their mind that they're the only black people on the planet. Everybody else is a European or their enemy or something like that. Right? So Noble Drew Ali came out again, right? And it's again it's a constant redundant, repetitious message, right? That if you don't have a free national name, don't even waste your time talking about anything. If you don't have knowledge of the constitutional form of government, or what a constitution is, or what a nation is, etc., you fall into this pit, right?
But to know that, you gotta know yourself.
Exactly.
It's not easy to know these things and not know anything about yourself.
Sure.
You have the first constitution.
Right.
And that's why it's very difficult to speak to some ignorant people that don't know anything about themselves to learn something about the constitution.
Exactly.
Right.
Hey, Mark.
So,
Exactly. Right. Yo. Yeah. Alright. Any questions? Yeah. Nothing? Everybody's good?
Yeah. This your baby?
Yeah. Yeah, you can just put it on top. Yeah. Good thanks. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. Connect with that. Let's talk to I talked to Khalifa, so yeah, right. We should be straight.
Okay.
Because I think that the site might even be done and everything already. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for us, nations of any group of people, to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that allude to slavery. Right? So he's acknowledging that in order for the nations to get out of the habitual nature of clinging to names that allude to slavery, you should have a free national name. Like, real simple. If you're gonna complain about why are we being taxes so much, then there's a name that you should have that should omit you from taxes, right? If there's too much violence in whatever community, then there should be a community that is free of that stuff. You don't have to latch on to things that are destructive and negative, right? That has been a way that the European has branded us, right? Branded our thinking, that we need them for something. Like when we say people, yeah, come proclaim your nationality at the Moorish Science Temple or whatever Moorish institution. And their first thing is, well, how am I gonna live? How am I gonna work? How am I gonna get these benefits that I'm getting if I leave, this corporate construct, right? It's not a sense of leaving the corporate construct, right? The corporate construct was something set up on you. You're just lifting that corporate construct off and now being yourself. Because once the people realize that their birthright is theirs, it doesn't belong to somebody to sanction to them or sell to them or whatever like that, then they would have a very much they would have a sense of ownership with this. They would look at this like anything else that they get, right? They might go to Foot Locker, go buy a sneaker, right? And they'll say that they own that. Yeah, these are my shoes that I bought or whatever. No, it's not, because there's a logo right on there that says Nike or Adidas or whoever. That's their stuff. You're just renting that stuff. If that was yours, it would have your name on it. Right? Same concept with free national name. If you say that you're a free national, if you say that you're a national, that name that you have as a national should attach to something that's yours. So when we say that when Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that they're Moorish American, they're descendants of Moroccans born in America, right? He didn't tell us that we're Moroccans because we're from North Africa. He told us that we're Moroccans because this is our land over here, and this land over here is known as Morocco as well. Not just over there. You got some more?
I just had a thought that if there was a ship that was out there and there was a shipment of shoes and it was abandoned, and they went to see who owned the shoes, and on the shoes was written Nike, we'll go back to Nike.
Right.
So if there's a ship out there that's abandoned and it's got someone else's name on it, then it goes back to whoever's name that is.
Right.
So it's just the same connection, right? You are owned by the name.
So it's just like we're saying, right? Everybody's gonna look at the Asiatic congressman, right? Oscar the priest, right? And they'll never connect that B-E, priest, is actually D-E-Y, which is a Moorish name, right? Just like Matthew da Costa, who they say is the first Moor to find Canada, right? D-E is actually D-E-Y. That's a Moorish name. And he's recognized as a Moor when you research this man. It's recognized that he's a Moor. He's a dark-skinned brother, and he was one of the first people to actually recognize quote-unquote Canada.
So when you're looking at names like that, you can assume the analogy that they're Moorish.
Exactly. Right? Because, and again, right? Going back to the state of mind of the ancient foremothers and forefathers. So, somebody's in there, you have to wait, somebody's in there. Right? Going back to the state of mind of the ancient foremothers and forefathers. When you go back to the state of mind of the ancient foremothers and forefathers, you'll pick this stuff up. Right? It'll just be things that you'll just recognize it. Right? Just like, messed up to bring it up all the time, but basketball guys, Sterling, and the black people, why are you bringing them to the game, right? With a ancient mindset, automatically your mind should go to, well, why don't you just start their own league? Start your own league. You don't have to worry about nobody telling you about you're black and don't come to the game or whatever like that, right? So when Noble Drew Ali is making statements with regard to free names, governments, constitutions, things of a lawful nature. Our recognition of those things is what gives them power. Our acknowledging them is what gives them power. But also, our neglecting to deal with them is what takes the power away. So like with people with people saying that they're Indian, the more that they adopted that as a reality to them, the less they had a reality. The more they started to live a fiction. And then the more they adopted, then they got a card. Oh yeah, now we got a card, and then then they lose more, right? Just like black people. You're black, okay? You lose Black Wall Street. You want to be black again? Okay, now we're gonna bomb you in Philadelphia because you want to be black. We'll put Abu Jamal in prison for however long just because we can do that, right? We'll mislead you because you want to come to our school? All right, cool. Then we dumb you down some more. Oh, you want to come to our church or whatever? Sure, come on down, right? Because they already know that the nature of people who have been mentally enslaved is to continue the enslavement, but on their self, right? This is again why Noble Drew Ali came, to get us to adopt a different mindset. Once we adopt this different mindset, then our conditions are automatically going to change because the body goes where the mind goes.
I think it says in the Quran, everything is thought.
Right.
Wherever your thought is where you go.
Is where you go. Right? And these are things that are ancient, aboriginal, indigenous practices that our ancient foremothers and foremothers practiced, like breathing, blinking. They didn't have to go to no school or temple or nothing like that to learn, right? Majority of the things were oral culture. Grandma tell you something. Go pick that bush right there and that will stop your fever. Go eat that thing right there and pick that thing and suck on that and it would stop your stomach ache. We don't know why we do it, but we did it and it worked, right? Because of the mindset, having the knowledge that, well, somebody else, my grandma used to tell me to do that. And then my grandma's grandma used to say to do that. But now, everybody's taking Triminic, Advil, whatever, right? Which, that's not your ancient foremothers and forefathers that taught you to do that. That's a foreigner. In your own land, telling you take medicine that you can, dandelions right there growing rampant, you can boil that and cure yourself.
There was a thing on the news, did you see it? The 10-year-old girl who has leukemia, or she has a form of cancer, and she did so long with chemotherapy. Chemotherapy was hurting her. She couldn't walk, she couldn't do nothing, and she decided herself that she doesn't want it anymore. She just wants to use natural Aboriginal plants.
10-year-old.
Or healings that her ancestors, her grandparents are telling her about, that she learned about, right? And they brought in Children's Aid, and the whole reserve came in.
Right.
Right, come on, they took her right out,
Yeah.
But there was a big, but then it was quiet.
Yeah, they said on the
That was
news the
the
other
end of it.
day, the court decided that she has that right.
Yeah, you think?
Right. Yeah. Right? The courts did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Right?
And the ancestors just got her to sit and read the letter that she wrote. She wrote it herself, and that was enough. They were escorted out the
For
building.
real.
Yeah, right.
Got a comment?
I remember.
I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind of their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law-abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens, according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion, but there is one issue for them to be recognized by this government and the earth, and it comes only through the connection to the Moorish divine and national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. Right? So that statement this statement that he's making, there's only one issue for them to be recognized, right? By this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection to the Moorish divine national movement. That statement alone should get people to jump down on this, because they've done everything else. It's not like, he's speaking from a perspective that there was all these different things going on at this time. At this time, he was saying that there's only one issue, and that's connecting yourself to the Moorish divine national movement. Today, we have all these other things out here that people are saying is what you should connect yourself to in order to be free, in order to be recognized or whatever. But, when a Moor says, here's a receipt that I use my nationality card, get taxes off, everybody looks at it and goes back to complaining about taxes. When here's the receipt right here to show you that you don't have to pay taxes on anything that you buy. Juice, you want a $1 juice? Pay $1. You want a $30,000 car? Pay what's on the ticket. Right? It's supposed to be that standard, but it's not that standard because, like we've been talking about, there's some type of sorcery, witchcraft, whatever that they got on our people to stop them from recognizing what it is that they really have in their own land.
The other day, my friend tagged me in this picture on Instagram, and the guy was wearing a fez, and he was wearing his Jordans, and his fez matched his Jordans.
Yeah.
So he was like, fuck fitted, I'm gonna start wearing my fez. And one of the guys commented, and he was like, how he would never wear that trader shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, how it was the black men in the fezzes that helped that were the Caucasian man's flunky.
Yeah.
And they helped to destroy this and burn down that and led them to the Americas. And he's like, how anyone who is trying to be a Moor is just trying to claim to be a free white man.
Yeah.
And he was being so like just tearing down.
Yeah.
And and then the guy answered back, and he was in proper Moor fashion. Like he was so like upbeat and positive, even though homeboy was
Was
so
killing him,
negative.
yeah.
Like he was just like, listen, bro, like you know what I mean. I hear where you're coming from. He's like every other nation, we have people who may not have, represented us in the best light.
Right.
You know, there may have been Moors who got caught up and started doing things that they shouldn't have been doing or whatever, but that doesn't reflect the whole Moorish movement. You know what I mean? And the guy was like, not happy. He was like, no, like Moors are traitors, and and he's saying how no people have ever called themselves Moors world over, and there's no written document that ever says Moor, and how it's derived from Caucasians, and how it's still a derogatory term being black towards us, and all this stuff.
Right. And this is where the issue is, because people that speak in that fashion, they're gonna have influence on dumb people who don't know any better.
Fully.
Right? But that's the people that we're supposed to go get.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when we do research on treason and traitorous activity in different nations, right? They put those people on a wall and stone them to death, talking like that. They're not talking about, reply to something on Twitter. They're gonna go get those guys, right? Put them on a wall and stone them to death because they have no allegiance and they have no honor. Right? No different than in the literature when the European came here, they went to an old sheik and told the old sheik, we need some people to help us build up the land out here because, whatever. And she told him, take those Moors over there because they're not going to do nothing. Right? Because Noble Ali said, this is for strong men and women. If you're not going to stand up for this, then you probably don't deserve to live. So you might as well go with the European right now and get whatever it is that you're going to get, because this is not for everybody. Right? And majority of that, again, is our own, right? The same traitors, treasonous people who had this information and didn't tell their people. They wanted their people to believe that, civil rights is really what's gonna, don't worry, we're gonna get the vote again in 25 years, so don't worry, just hold tight, put their put hands together and we shall overcome, kumbaya and all that stuff, walk down the street.
The guy who was saying this called himself Pan-African.
Yeah. Right? So right? Pan is, pan, right? In photography.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like when you have a panoramic picture, it's a picture that's
like
you're seeing the full view.
Yeah.
Right? But pan is also an instrument that you use in the kitchen. So you really gonna connect yourself to some kitchen stuff and say that, and you expect somebody to respect that position?
You're African who deserves to stay in the kitchen.
You're African in the kitchen, right? And then you have African, right? Then they say that they're African. Okay, well, if you ask these people who are from Africa,
they don't consider themselves African.
They never consider themselves African.
Wherever they're from.
Exactly.
Nigeria or Ghana or wherever.
So the people who are from the continent that know that they're not African, they'll never go tell a Pan-African, shouldn't be talking like that. Because, I'm from Congo and we don't talk like that. Because they know that niggers, the guys who call themselves something that they're not, would come and burn their stuff down
For trying to tell them the truth. Cause look, yeah, just look at how he was so hostile.
Right, how he was hostile.
So hostile. I'm like, why is he so
Just
angry?
because the brother's wearing a fez with some
Fully.
Jordans.
And the man is like
Right?
hostile, like.
But that's where they get our people. They get our people into this mold. They get our people into this bubble, right? That it's almost like they know something's wrong, but for them to get out of what they know is wrong, you know, they don't want to go through the what they have to go through to get out of it. They just want, you know, click your heels twice and everything's over tomorrow. When it doesn't work like that. You know, a child is before you, not even a child, even if we use an adult, before you get your degree, you're gonna go to some classes and all that. You're not gonna go to university today and graduate tomorrow. I don't care how smart you are, how intelligent you think you are, your IQ is 800 million higher than anybody else, you're still gonna have to go through all those 4 years, 3 years, whatever, to get your stuff. But we don't want to put the time in. We want this to be done, right? And again, it's how, you know, it's a training that we have. It's like, I remember somebody saying that, you know, yeah, I got money, but if I see something out there and I can't buy it 3 times, I ain't buying it. Right? It means I have to stock my money up a little bit more. Right? I'm not just gonna go just because I got it and just give it up. If I can't buy it 3 times, I ain't buying it. Right? Because you have to put some time in. It's not gonna be a cakewalk. It's not gonna be a just because you know you're a Moor, you know, just because you know you're a Moor, and because you know you're a Moor and you go to court and say I'm a Moor, I just go, oh my God, oh the Moors are back, bound to just come throw his case out or whatever. No, that ain't happening. They're gonna fight you harder than you went in there saying that you're black. Yeah. Right? They're gonna fight you way harder than if you just said that you're black. You know? Right? You got something? Alright. Alright. Right? So by being connected to the Moorish Divine National Movement, and through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government, and not under a granted privilege as has been the existing condition for many generations. Right? So he's acknowledging that we've been living under being granted privileges for many generations. And by connecting ourselves to the Moorish Divine and National Movement, we can receive our divine rights so that we don't have to be subjected to any privileges, or in another term, instead of privileges, any statutes or codes or color of law. Right? You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into the light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and for the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, so that they will learn to love instead of hate and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. supporting our national constitution instead of hate for the United States of America. Right? So in supporting our national constitution under principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, we would not have hate for the United States of America, because that's not who we're supposed to be hating. Because the United States of America is a geographical location, geographical identification. Brazil is the United States of America. Right? Peru is the United States of America. Yucatan is the United States of America. Canada is the United States of America. So if you're saying that, you know, well, you know how they talk, right? Well, the United States of America is whatever, or the American whatever did this to me, right? They're just saying that their self did that to them, right? So if you're going around the world making statements like the American whatever did something to you, right? The American army went around the world and pillaged the world, but all the tanks say U.S on them, and all the planes say U.S on them, and all the soldiers have U.S pin on them, and they never identify themselves as American anything. You're an idiot to everybody else in the rest of the world. You're classed as undesirable, right? Where is it at? Those who fail to recognize their free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirable and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. Just for the simple fact that they don't recognize their own, what it is that they have. But they'll recognize everybody else's stuff, right? They'll recognize Punjabis get to carry a dagger. You know, how come they can do that? Because, you know, why are they allowed to do that? You know, how come priests could rape little boys and get off? Right? They're doing that because they're standing up on birthrights. Right? Their birthright. Their Roman Vatican birthright allows them to rape little boys. Because that's their own little society. And the boys that they're raping are their little altar boys. They ain't nothing to do with nobody outside of anywhere. So you can't say anything to them about that. They can say something. One pope might come on and say, well, you know, we don't condone or whatever like that. But then, you know,
You have to give penance for a year.
right?
In other words, you have to ask for forgiveness for a whole year. That's your punishment.
For doing that?
Yeah.
Go read it. They just brought it out. I think it was 2 weeks ago they were talking about it. That
Yeah.
3,000 popes that's been caught. Like the maximum punishment, they're gonna try and increase it to 2 years. Like you have to.
Yeah. Ooh. You know what I mean?
Like,
No bricks
like,
to the face or nothing like that.
We have to come down hard on
Yeah.
our people. So 2 years of penance. That's, you know.
Sorry.
And that's their and that's
But
their
it's
society.
written. It's
Right?
Don't take
That's
our
their-
word for it. Go read
That's
it.
their
It's there.
the Grand Sheik is empowered to make law and enforce law. That's their Act 1 of their constitution, right? That the Pope is the one that's gonna say, well, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If they're down with it, then hey, you know, then you're down with it. You know? Even if people aren't down with it. Just like when we were watching the thing with the judges chamber, council chamber thing or whatever, right? And they're talking about people coming into the court and, you know, the paperwork and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we want everybody who judges to sign off on this thing, you know what I mean? But, you know, we're not going to let you guys sign. We signed it for you guys. We just want to know if you guys agree. You guys agree? Yeah? You agree? All right, cool. Now we're going to put this in, right? But and everybody's in their stone face like,
It's like, what just happened?
what just happened? Yo? What did we miss? You know what I mean? You mean they put the thing through without us even whatever?
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, that's the society. That's that society. You can't knock them in their jurisdiction doing criminality. Because that's their jurisdiction. Right?
Yeah, the ones out west, when they, because, you know, just recently, they stopped the last residential school. in the West Coast, and
Yeah.
they had the Pope come and apologize, a public apology.
Yeah.
That was their punishment. The Pope came and
Right.
said, sorry, we took all your children,
Yeah,
and
killed
all
them
kind of
and
nasty and
raped their
whatever,
minds
yeah.
and
And you
did
didn't see
whatever.
them till they were 15,
Right.
come back all messed up. Here you
Yeah.
go.
We're
Yeah, we're
sorry.
sorry. Are you guys okay? Do you need some money?
Right?
Here.
You know?
That was
And it
it.
comes back to the sign on that, you know, when you become an ally with somebody who isn't living constitutional or isn't living by certain principles, right? You're ultimately a victim to whatever comes out of that, right? And you can't really say anything about it. You can't really do anything about it because you signed up for it. You agreed to be their ally. No different than Jamaica right now, right? The shifters talking about, yeah, you know, there's, you know, just fruits in the street. Just fruits in the street. Nobody's not picking them up. Nobody's not whatever, because their mentality is we're allies with the IMF, and they said that we can't do nothing with these.
We can go
The
buy.
only fruits we can eat is what we import. This is in Jamaica, where they have fruits that grow there. They can't eat those fruits off the tree, but they're gonna import some mangoes from Mexico or whatever, and they'll eat those ones. Or that, you know, we have whatever fruit or vegetable here, but you know, I don't want that no more. I want the Mexican ones. What?
It tastes the same.
Tastes worse.
Really?
Because it traveled and got a little dried and
Hey, well, it's mango. Hey.
turned dry mango.
Right?
That's not true.
And then if we look at it like here too,
Our
Right.
gas. They were saying how all the gas we get out of our ground we send to America, and then they're paying like $1.05 and we're paying like $1.60
right.
for gas. And I'm like,
yeah,
what the hell?
yeah,
Like,
what the hell? It comes from here. Like,
It's
what's up?
ours, and we're buying it back from them.
Right. Right? Allies, sanctions, embargoes, all these things that cause fraudulent governments to have power and make Aboriginal indigenous governments not fall but not be able to exercise how they're supposed to exercise, because they became an ally with these individuals who have no intention of living by the principles, adhering to them, or anything like that. You know? More reason for us to be ourselves, because nobody else in the world is dealing with them. Everybody else in the world is like, well, you know what? Sorry, but you know, you guys are a democracy and you're a corporation and your money's dead paper. You can't even use that here. So we're not dealing with you no more. And the only thing keeping them alive is Negro, black, colored people in North America. It's the only thing. Everybody else already gave up on that so-called jurisdiction called United States being a legitimate form of government. Only their real allies who have some dirt on them are who they still do relations with. You know what I mean? But it's not a standard thing, like, you know, when you would go somewhere and everybody's gonna take the American dollar, like, yeah, we'll take it. Yeah, spend that here. That's not going on anymore. Because people realize that that's dead paper. It's serving no purpose if we have that in our treasury. It's just like if we got paper, blank paper. It serves no purpose whatsoever, right? But, you know, a lot of the power that they have is because of them having allies. Not because, you know, they did something. Because they connected themselves to something. Just like how they connected themselves to the Moorish Empire, right? Just like how they connect themselves to we're the Americans and Negro, black, colored people are Negro, black, colored people. They're not the Americans, right? So once they get hold of the power, you know, their job is to disperse it evenly, but you know, their intention is keep everything to themselves, right? So they can have this continual, perpetual, pseudo form of power that everybody's going to be down with. Right? I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their unity and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all American citizens alike. So if Italians are going to come over here and be American, and then Greeks are going to come over here and be American, and English are going to come over here and be American, Chinese are going to come over here and be American, Japanese are going to come over here and be American, right? That's because they're forced to proclaim their free national name of Italian, Greek, Chinese, whatever, and then attached to that is the landmass that they're on. But you don't hear about Chinese Jamaicans or Chinese Africans. You don't hear Japanese Africans, right? Because that's a fiction. They know that that's Asia. So they're not going to call themselves something that they're not, just to justify some colonizer's position. Over here, by saying American, you're saying that you're Al-Moroccan. So a Chinese Al-Moroccan is a guy from China that now lives in America. A guy from China that lives in Africa is just Chinese. He's not a Chinese African, Chinese Congolese, Chinese Ghanaian, right? So there's a paradox over here. There's a catch-22 over here. There's a
We're just stupid. That's it.
yeah. There's something over here that
Something in the water.
yeah, something in the water, something in the food, something in the air
Something.
that is having people here not think about these, like when they say like they never say Indian American. They'll say American Indian though. So how come the people who are here that are identified as quote unquote Indian, how come they're not Indian Americans? Right? Oh, maybe because they're not from here. Maybe because they're not Indian, because they're Chinese. But if you identify them as Chinese, then you give up that they're not the indigenous people, and then you're going to have a big question mark as to who are those people. If these guys aren't the indigenous people that say that they're indigenous, 6 Nations or whatever like that, then who is it? Who's next up in line to be those people? And they're not going to point to us. They're going to say the Europeans, because they're the only other Americans, because all of those guys are Negro, black, colored people. And steal your birthright again, just because. Free national name, don't want to recognize it, somebody else is going to pick it up, and they're going to use it. And most of the time, they're going to use it against you. Just for the simple fact that you have a right to have a free national name if you're in a geographical location. It should be a standard. You shouldn't be you shouldn't be on a landmass and not be identified or connected with the land. Everybody knows that, right? It's not something that other people have to guess or try to figure out, or what am I going to call myself, or what do we call ourselves, and we can't. How many other people do we know in the world end up where they are because they were on a slave ship? Like a slave ship took them to wherever they're at. So why does that apply to our people?
Only.
How come we're the ones that were brought on a slave ship from somewhere, but there's nobody else in the world that has that story? That nobody else in the world has that story. That they were brought somewhere or taken somewhere else.
The Europeans haven't
On a slave
enslaved
ship.
everybody else. They did
Right.
it to everybody.
They did it to everybody.
But we're the only ones who were
Who were
transported,
Transported.
from one place to another.
from one place to another by the millions. In a time when it took 4 months to travel somewhere by boat. So how much trips did y'all make?
They were, I was watching this thing on YouTube and it was talking about how like scientifically it's impossible, the way that they show how they had slave ships and how everyone
Right.
was like laid
Yeah.
out. They were like, if they were really traveling for as long as they say, as that you would have to travel and people were laying down in that way and were unable to go to the washroom,
Whatever,
anywhere
right.
else, everyone would have drowned
Yeah.
from each other's
Yeah.
fecal matter and other
Right.
things. Everyone would have drowned. They would have had no slaves. Everyone would have died. So they're
Right.
lying about everything.
Right.
Pretty much, you know. So how did they
Well,
transport us if they
Well,
transported?
here's a question. Where did that word ship come from?
Let me look it up.
Well, see, that's the whole point. They used to transfer manure from overseas back and forth. And manure, after a certain time, once water starts touching it, fumes comes from that. Methane. What happens with methane? You put a light to it, it explodes. So if people were in the bottom of a ship, fecal matter will be coming out, water will be touching it, methane will come on. You bring a light down there,
No one could
poof.
smoke anything
Okay.
on the ship.
So, hence, then if that's the case, then every ship that was supposed to come over here blew up.
Fully.
So how did 6 million get over here now? If every ship that was coming over blew up. That's the next argument. Hence the word, when they say with manure, ship high in transit. Ship. Right? So, you just mentioned fecal matter, you just mentioned yourself, fecal matter, out of manure, you add water to it, methane gas comes out of it once it's in a condensed spot. Methane gas, light, do the two, boom.
And they always like to show they're walking through the place with a lantern,
Yeah.
looking at all
Okay.
the slaves.
Right.
So, come on now. But that's the whole thing. Now we have university graduates telling us this story.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Right? And then, what are you looking at? Yeah, 15 minutes. Right? In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in Latin to the language, deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, as the word color deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon the earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by the said national governments in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitution to be free and equal. Since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for application of the law that was enforced since 1774, all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and its citizens. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost. and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and by my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great creator of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. Which is where we're at right now. Right? So all these destructions and stuff, the earthquakes or whatever that we see going on, it's directly related to Moors branding themselves Negro, black, colored people and not adhering to the principles that was laid down. And I, the prophet, do hereby believe that this administration of government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America. Right? Removing the great sin which is being committed and being practiced by my people in the United States of America. Right? To get the sin out is to get the people's mind frame in the right place. And if they don't want to adhere to that, it's okay. There's skinheads, KKK or whatever, that they have a protocol to deal with the Negro black color situation that they've implemented to try to get rid of this Negro problem. Right? And if that doesn't get you to change, then like what else do you want? If seeing a brother kill another brother for Jordans is not going to let you stop buying Jordans, then you go buy them then. Because action speaks, right? If we know that, you know, chemtrails are killing people, and you're not doing any lung flushes or anything like that, try to save a little bit of lungs that you got left because of all this crap that we're breathing in, and you're not, you know, changing diets and whatever, then what else? What do you expect to happen? But the great creator of the universe, being not pleased with the works that's being performed in North America, going to remove the sin, earthquakes, diseases, or whatever else. That's exactly what's going on right now. Just for the simple fact that we didn't stick to the principles of the ancient foremothers and forefathers. We wanted to adopt European customs and think, oh yeah, let's do that stuff. Say that again? Right. Right? And we even get there. We're just talking about free national name. We're just talking about having a name that's yours. We're not even talking about having a God that's yours, having prayers that's yours. Because they know it is not the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, economically, etc. This is back then. It's still going on today. Worse, no nation recognizing these people that want to be recognized so bad by everybody else in the world that they're willing to do whatever and still not get recognized. Right? Look, same thing like we're talking about with Sterling. Right? calling them, telling them what the hell you bringing these people, whatever here, and all that stuff. Not recognized. Those guys are millionaires and stuff, and they still don't recognize you guys. You guys got Benzes and Porsches and big houses and swimming pool in the back and all that, and they still don't recognize you?
You're the reason
Obviously.
why they have what you have times a
Times
thousand.
a thousand.
They still don't recognize.
Still don't recognize you.
Still
Obviously
playing
it's
for-
something. Yeah, right?
And you still play for the guys.
And you
I'm
still
gonna
play
throw
for
my
them.
shirt down. What the fuck's that gonna do?
Right.
Like serious, like just think about it. He just said to you that I don't want you at my games, but yet you're the one that's bringing
You're the
him
player.
the player.
Playing the game.
We don't want your people. You can come.
You can come,
You're
but
making
we-
me money.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Well, your people
all your-
can't come.
Tell your family and all your friends to stay at home.
Yeah.
It's like, and you still playing. There's just
Right.
gotta be something wrong.
So they will not recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc. in their present condition of their endeavor in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. So it's not even like it's an accepted position. It's a position that we're constantly trying to force other people to accept. And when they don't accept it, then we want to order racist, discrimination, blah, blah, whatever like that. March picket when we're the ones in error. Right? They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses, but I have traveled in the South, and I have examined conditions there. And it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet. Islam. Right? So, remember that we are the most wanted people people want us to wake up the most amongst anybody, right? The best way that we can wake up is by studying what Noble Drawley brought, using that as a platform, and from there, that's your nucleus, and then you branch out to other stuff over there. Don't go to other stuff and then try to find yourself back to this, because you ain't gonna find yourself back to this. Guaranteed. If you don't have the prophet as a compass in your navigation of the thought realm, and you're just going out there waywardly, you're gonna get lost, you're gonna get injured, you're gonna spend fiat that you don't have. Right? Right? Any questions, comments before we close out? Question? Nothing? Good? Comments, anything? Good over?
No, good.
That specifically?
Just
Any question?
whatever. Any questions whatsoever? Something that came up talking, something that happened last night, just remembered or whatever.
I just something that I noticed, cause as a sister, I've been reading like for women in general, and like I've just come across like some things that say that like, well, I know like we're supposed to have like a matriarchal type thing going on, and they say that like Allah is like a feminine power, whatever the case may be. But then with other texts, it talks about Allah being a male power and stuff like that. And I just feel like it's kind of confusing, and it should be more, of a flow. Like if it's a female power, then it's a female power. If it's matriarchal, then everything should be matriarchal.
Right.
Like you can't have like you know what I mean? Like
Right. Well, and this is why the 101 questionnaire, Prophet has the sister holding the sister up, because the ultimate objective is to wake her up because when you wake her up, then you wake up the nation because she brings us, right? Now, with the patriarch, matriarch, or the he, she stuff that's back and forth, right? That seems like they're saying two things at once, is because we're in a patriarchal society, people have a patriarchal mindset right now, so the matriarchal principles are still sort of put to the side because of this patriarchal concept that people have. So it takes, you know, people like yourself to recognize that it's matriarchal and push that as an agenda, right? Opposed to, you know, like where you're coming from. Well, it's kind of confusing that whatever. Like if you know that it's matriarchal and it makes sense that that's what it is, then that should be the channel, right? That you use to, because you know, like people say, how come you guys say Allah or whatever? You know, you're not going to, well, you know, Allah is the God of the world. Yeah, because Allah is feminine. That's why. You know, how come you guys wear a fez for? Oh, because the fez is a womb. That's why. Why you wear a turban? Well, because turban represent, you know what I mean? And because, you know, it's a brainwash that the people are under, being in a patriarchal system that is run by matriarchs, underlying with matriarchal power, right? So, you know, go to any church, congregation mainly female.
It's true.
Right? Like, go to, you know, you know, children's services, things like that, right? CAS and all that stuff. The head people in that are women. It's not no men running that, right? All these look at the elections right now. All these women that's running to be mayor, to be premier, to be whatever. You know, right? Because they know that it's matriarchal. But if they can have the female in a concept of, yeah, I'm matriarchal, but God is he, they win. You know, and that's where they want people to be at, right? Not where you're at, that you're actually seeing that. Hold on a second. You know, some of these things that are patriarchal actually are matriarchal in nature. They're not completely patriarchal across the board. You know what I mean? Like we're saying with the church thing, right? It's mainly women that runs that. Go to any church around here. Mainly women go in there. If we just stand out here on Eglinton, all you see is dresses and, you know, the church hats going up the street. I see no men walking around talking about they going to church. You know?
Show up.
And even like growing up in a quote-unquote religious family, it's your mom who's on you about going to church.
Exactly.
It's not your dad.
It's not your dad.
He's like, okay.
If you want to go, you go. If you don't want to go, don't go. Mom's like, no, you can't say that, you gotta go to church, Jesus or whatever like that. So, you know, but the information's out there. It's just to get it out there. And the best way to get it out there is by women saying it. Because man could say matriarchal, but, well, not matriarch. You know what I mean? Right? You know?
Are you guys even seen that show, Ancient Aliens?
No.
Is it HBO or whatever? Or?
It's on Discovery.
No.
My dad sent me a link because I put my dad onto this, right? So now, like, I think he's turned TV into like entertainment. Like, he watches it just to like see the lies that they're gonna try and pass off. So he sent me a link for Ancient Aliens, and they were talking about. And they were talking about like all the ancient civilizations and all the things that they built, and then they said how these people came in contact with extraterrestrials with blonde hair and blue eyes. And I was like, what the hell? Because I used to watch the show before, and I'm like, they had never. It was always extraterrestrials helped these people with the things that they built, but never before were the extraterrestrials blonde hair and blue eyes. And then they straight said Caucasian-like. I'm like, these guys.
Yeah.
But that's like funny, right?
But,
it's their story that they're telling, right?
You know, that's their media.
Fully.
So, right? That's why Drew Ali said that, you know,
You don't have your own media, you can't say
If we don't have our own press, then we're subject to everything that they say. You know? Right.
say whatever.
But with that, Islam, we'll just close out with the prayer, and we'll be here for a little bit. Face the east, 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth, peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation.
and my salvation.
By night
By night
and by day,
and by day.
through his holy prophet,
His holy prophet,
Noble Jew Ali.
Noble Jew Ali.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam.